You're watching the Health Now Nutrition Podcast, advancing our holistic and nutrition industry one story at a time. Presenting your host, Michelle Post.
All right, welcome to the Health Now Nutrition channel. And we have today the wonderful Cathy Cochran. And she is an awesome contributor to the Saved by Nutrition book here as well. So she definitely has some books for you if you'd like to purchase one from her. Let me give you a little bit more about Cathy Cochran. She's a holistic nutrition consultant, writer, and teacher based in Ottawa in guiding women to listen to their body. She is as curious about her clients' relationship to eating as she is about their food. Along with offering practical tools, Cathy delves into a woman's story. She sees the intersection between what's happening in somebody's body, on their plate, and in their life as the key to positive changes. Her aim is to move clients beyond what they should do. Gosh, love that should, hey? To once again enjoying food and eating. Clients learn how to create habits that nourish what's possible for their health in the long run and rediscover what it's like to feel at home in their body. Cathy loves to read fiction, garden, walk in the woods, and upcycle pre-loved clothing. Oh, that's what we all need right now, actually. Her writing has been featured on Real Foods Witch, MindBody Green, and The Mogul Mom, where she wrote one of the top 10 posts for 2015. If you want to learn more about Cathy, you can find her at www.wholehealthservices.ca, or you can email her at Cathy, C-A-T-H-Y, at Whole Health Services. That's W-H-O-L-E healthservices.ca. Welcome to our show today.
Nice to see you again, Michelle.
Nice to see you too. I'm so excited to share this amazing topic that, you know, it's come out previously in books like Wheat Belly for the regular populace to read. There's still so much more when it comes to how it actually does affect people. So give us a little bit about your story about how it affected you.
Well, when I was a kid, I from like one of my very first memories is eating oatmeal for breakfast and knowing that I was eating oatmeal because I wasn't supposed to be eating wheat. And I know my mom kept us off wheat for a while. I had eczema on my wrists, eczema behind my my knees too, I think. And that's it. I mean, and that's one of those things where we were kept off wheat, but then eventually it got back in. But I know my mom would say whenever I'd go to somebody's birthday party and I'd inevitably eat Kraft dinner and birthday cake, and I'd come home sneezing my head off. Yeah. So it was always that, like it always manifested and probably aggravated. I had hay fever as a kid, and looking back now and knowing what I know, it was likely aggravated from the fact that I was eating things that I wasn't supposed to be eating, for sure, right? Because one thing is going to compound and make it worse for another. But it was always those sort of regular, normal, like I use that word normal a lot in my story, those normal things that kids go through. You know, hay fever, running nose, a bit of eczema. I always had a bit of a pot belly, and you know, you mentioned the book Wheat Belly. I know some people have that very dramatic effect. You know, I know women who come in like, I always look 4 months pregnant, and it's that thing. But so while I always had a pot belly, I was also, my digestion wasn't very smooth either. So all these things that in hindsight I realized was all linked to the fact that I was eating something that was just causing inflammation in my body in general, sort of a low grade inflammation all the time. And it had all these little effects.
Right. And so how did that compound over time for you?
Well, over time, I mean, I went through phases of eating wheat, not eating wheat, and noticing what happened. It did eventually develop, I mean, among other, it was multifactorial, but I did also develop asthma as an adult. And so all these things sort of came together, but always having colds and hay fever and being on antihistamines, and so being dopey all the time, and just not being generally comfortable. And
yeah, There's so many things that I think the little things that people don't seem to correlate between the food allergies and including wheat to sneezes after they eat. We've had sneezes in our family after we ate all the time. We just called it like, pass through history through us, right? So,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
My words elude me at this moment. So, so how old were you when you really made the commitment to go wheat free?
Oh, I was probably in my early 30s at that point. And I always toyed with it. So it was one of those things, because I had always remembered that fact that the pediatrician had told my mom to keep us off wheat when I was a toddler. I figured, well, that's a good place to start if I'm trying to address all these little things going on in my body. And so I did start by not eating wheat. I did that, I guess, pretty religiously for a year. Although I was off wheat, but I still ate spelt. I ate kamut. I ate a lot of oats, which I realized later were bad for me in a different way. They actually affected my moods drastically, which I feel terrible for my older kids who like had a screaming banshee for a mom for a while. It's just because I was eating oats all the time.
I think that's actually really important, because I really believe that a lot of people don't put in the psychological effects that food allergies can have. And my screaming banshee, I call it She-Hulk, was with eggs. And it was a 2-hour differentiation between eating eggs and then wanting to kill someone. Just absolutely nasty when I finally made that correlation and had to take it out. Wow.
Yeah, mine's the next day. So it took a while to sort of put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not realizing, it's one of those things where you eat it all the time and you're in this mood all the time. And then you don't realize till there was a certain point where I hadn't eaten oats for a while and then had some and then realized, oh, I'm in a foul mood. Like I haven't been in a while and I had oats yesterday. So,
Right. I think a lot of food allergies can cause a lot of depression and anger and self-sabotage and just from even experience, let alone everything else. Right?
That's right. And it's how it all involves the liver and everything. We never think of sort of the emotional, like the Chinese dietetics and getting into the energetic aspect of it. It's moving different things in our bodies. Yeah.
Absolutely. Super fascinating. So what helped you most when you were starting to learn about how to eat without wheat or without gluten?
Well, certainly without wheat was easy enough because there were so many other types of flours and everything. It was when I started going more, I guess probably about 5 years later, somebody and this is at this point I had developed asthma. Somebody had suggested maybe you want to cut out gluten entirely. And this was at a time when gluten-free products were not the norm that they are now. This was before the big trend happened.
Right.
And so there weren't so many products out there. And again, this is like trial and error through the years. I've noticed this, that I was eating more whole grains. So I would eat, like, as opposed to rice products and quinoa products, I would be eating rice and quinoa, and I would eat a lot more vegetables. So it was more of, as opposed to trying to find a replacement for the thing that I wanted, like a replacement bread or a replacement flour for baking or replacement pasta, which certainly there were no pastas at that time. It was eating something different, right? So that I'd be having like rice with pasta sauce, or vegetables with pasta sauce, or a spaghetti squash with pasta sauce, or just meat and vegetables and no starch with that, or so different ways of eating. And that I found made a huge difference. So and so later, as the products were coming out, I thought, oh great, I can have crackers again, I can have bread again, I can have this again, I can have that again. But then I realized eating the flour products, even if they were gluten-free, I was still getting the symptoms. Like I noticed it on my skin right away, so not so much the sneezing, but just the congestion in my chest and stuff if I was eating flour products, whether they had gluten in them or not.
Right, absolutely.
So that really reminded me, and it's something that I tell clients all the time, don't look for something to pretend to be the thing you're giving up. find something entirely different.
I want to talk about that. I also want to let everyone know that we are talking with Cathy Cochran. And you can actually reach her with this amazing topic and information at www.wholehealthservices.ca. That's WHOLE healthservices.ca, or email her directly at Cathy, CATHY, at wholehealthservices.ca. Let's continue this amazing conversation. I personally feel that it's really super important to start changing the whole lifestyle of this is what we have for breakfast. And it has to be a grain, and it has to be this, and it has to be that. Whereas there's so many people are adamant that they have to find substitutes for the exact same thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we can blame Mr. Kellogg and his sanatorium or whatever it was 100 years ago that said we must have grains, and this was he was coming all out of people eating too much meat and too much fat, and so it's that pendulum swing. It's like, oh, too much of one thing, we have to go completely in the opposite direction. And definitely that's a conversation I have all the time with myself and with clients. And yes, there are days when I just want toast. There are certain, like, it's cold and rainy, I just want tea and toast kind of thing.
Every once in a while I do want oatmeal, and I don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not necessarily a bad thing on the occasion, but moving people away from this idea. So then I'm always encouraging a protein filled breakfast, and people will say, okay, well, I like my eggs, but how can I have my eggs without toast? Oh my goodness. And I know I totally love it. I love a soft boiled egg and dipping the toast in. It's great. So I've actually gotten into a breakfast, and I first heard of this from a woman, Laura Hames Frankel, she has a nutrition background and everything. She's in the States. She used to call it her superhuman breakfast. And I've realized it probably comes from the paleo thing. And so it's eggs and sweet potatoes and greens and a bit of sauerkraut. And so you do get the starchy with the sweet potato, you get the starch in there, and also something to mop up your egg yolk, because you always want to have your eggs runny so that you get all those good fats.
I love runny eggs, yeah.
Yeah, so whether they're poached, sometimes I will, and quite often I use leftovers, right? So if I've thrown a chicken in the oven the night before, or whenever I'm throwing anything in the oven, I'll make sure I put a few sweet potatoes in the oven so that there's something cooked, and all I have to do is chop them up, stick them in a pan, warm them up with some leftover veggies, or even if I'm steaming greens right away in the morning, it doesn't take long.
Right.
And then by the time you've boiled your eggs or poached your egg or fry, and then or sometimes I just stick the eggs and fry them right in the pan with the veggies. And it's good. It takes 10 minutes.
That's super, super smart. Now, how do you feel that your cravings towards gluten and gluten-free products or other gluten products have changed by having that type of a breakfast meal?
Well, certainly having that type of a breakfast, I must say, the biggest thing I noticed about a full breakfast like that is that I'm satisfied until like 1 o'clock. I can eat that at 7 and I'm not hungry again until 1.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so it's got that good energy, right? So it's got the sustainable blood sugar as opposed to the usual like muffin, and then you dip, and then you need a coffee, and then you dip, and then you need another muffin or whatever. Definitely that helps keep my energy going throughout the entire morning. And so then I'm not necessarily craving something starchy at snack time. And to be honest, I don't miss not having the bread with the eggs. Like, it's a very nourishing, flavorful meal that I don't necessarily miss that. Yeah.
I guess feeling nourished is a reward into itself, right? So
completely.
I love that you talk about that. There's so many of these amazing questions. This one really is finding that mind-body connection. So we talk about that in your biography there, about actually being able to connect with that food. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, we think of ourselves as having energy and spirit, but there's something to the food itself. Like, even if you think of just that breakfast that I just talked about, it's all whole food, right? So it's all food that we're eating in the way that's found in nature or as close to as possible, right? There are some things we have to cook. There's some things we have to peel or take the shell off or what have you, but eating things as they are, you're getting the full complement of what's needed, right? So whole food is, what's that expression? Being more than the sum of the whole being more than the sum of its parts, right? So that it's more than just, so then we don't think, okay, well, I need some starch and I need some protein and I need some fiber and I need some vitamin this and I need those minerals. But when you're eating whole food, it's like a package. So all these different elements are coming in, where that you get the vitamins, and I mean, it's certain, Mother Nature's amazing that way, where the vitamins and minerals you need to process, assimilate, and digest and use this food, they're all in the package, right? But then there's also an energetic aspect to whole food, right?
Yeah.
So whether, and again, I mentioned Chinese medicine before. Chinese medicine, they talk about something being expansive or contracting or warming and cooling. And so there are all these different qualities that come that are sort of more subtle than just the sweet potato, or just like a sweet potato. You think of it as it comes in the ground, so it's very grounding, it's warming, so it nourishes you at a different level than just like the starch from a piece of bread.
Yeah, I find sweet potatoes like really sweet. I find it like very molassesy in flavor. Like it's really
for
fun.
Sure, especially if you bake them, right? You know, which then changes your relationship to sweetness, right? So that if you're learning to if you're eating whole foods and you're enjoying that sweetness in the whole food, you don't necessarily need sugar on top of that, right? So that there's sweet and then there's sugary, which are two very different flavors. Well, and one's an extreme of the other, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just share with us a little bit about what are your favorite gluten-free products?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know there's a bakery called Little Stream Bakehouse that's here in Ontario, and they make really good bread. There's one out west. There's something that comes from out west now. I've completely forgotten the name. I know in terms of pasta, Barilla, I don't know how you pronounce that, but they do a nice gluten-free pasta, because I know if you are looking for gluten-free pasta, those some of them are pretty starchy and like it's almost ready, it's not ready, and then whoop, it's mush.
That to me is rice pasta. I just won't. I would bypass pasta if that was my only option.
That's it. Yeah, rice pasta is like that. Mind you, if you have Asian rice noodles, they've been doing it for thousands of years. They figured out how to do it properly. So
and that's super different, isn't it?
And it is super, yeah, exactly. The other thing too is I like to find the local gluten-free bakeries, because they'll always have specialties and they always have things that they do nicely. So I mean, so many cities across Canada now have really good gluten-free bakeries, and they do tend to be more expensive, but that also, I don't mind that, because for me that reminds me that, okay, these flour products are a treat. You know, flour-based products are a treat. So whether it's bread or cake or cookie or pie or muffin or anything, it's an occasional food. It's not something.
Yeah.
So that the focus is more on whole foods.
I find that fascinating. With us, what we found is if it's a cheaper food, we'll leave it alone, so it goes bad. And so if we're buying cheaper bread, then it goes bad. So we still have to do the replacement cost. And it's just as expensive, if not more, if we were to do that, than buying the more expensive one in the first place, because, you know, if it's more expensive, you're darn well going to eat it.
Yeah. Which, you know, again gets, you know, where you're talking about connection to food, asking about connection to food before, it's kind of that same thing where there are ways that we connect with our food. And if there is something special about it, we are going to take more time and more care. I know when we go out for dinner, we don't go out for dinner that often. And so if we do, we're going to go somewhere nice where there's a good chef or really high quality food. And yeah, it is more expensive. But the other thing too is that we sit and we enjoy the meal in a whole different way than if it's just the usual whatnot that we cook at home all the time. It's like, which reminds me then, of course, when I get home, it's like, okay, well, why don't we eat dinner at home the same way and taste the subtlety of flavors? Yes, the chef might know some brilliant way of mixing A, B, and C ingredients in a way that I would never imagine. Plus, they always add extra butter or whatever makes it taste good.
Yummy.
Yeah, but then, so then, what's that connection? And it always makes me think about connection. We talk about mindful eating, but I'd even go a step further to say that there's even a spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
Right. So that when we think of spirituality and how we express our spirituality, we're always talking about intention and having ritual and expressing gratitude. We talk about sharing, we talk about receiving. And so how then can we express all that with our food and enhance the relationship and our connection to our food through those same kind of intentions, right? Or those same kind of steps or ways of connecting, right? So, gratitude, obviously, that's an easy one. We think of it often with food, and whether it's a grace that you do from a religious perspective or just saying, hey, thanks to this chicken for giving its life, or thanks to the farmer who grew these vegetables, or thanks to my husband for cooking the meal.
Right? I'm so grateful to be eating with you,
Exactly.
and sharing this, right?
And sharing, and the sharing is like when you cook for others, that I know in the same way that I will appreciate food more when somebody else has cooked for me. If I'm cooking for somebody else, I'll cook differently. Then I'll sort of put that extra
love,
attention, connection, care that I do. And so again, it's like, well, how do I care for the food when I'm just throwing together lunch for myself?
Right.
If I'm opening the fridge, there's leftover salad and I'm going to open a tin of tuna and throw it on the leaves.
Oh my God, that's what we had yesterday.
Yeah. It's like, okay, there's nothing to eat. I'll just throw together this thing. But can you do that with intention of like, I'm going to make myself a nice lunch and I'm going to open the tin with care and be grateful that I've found some lovely things in my cupboard to make a lunch, or and then receiving it.
I think that's brilliant. My mind is really going to, for those people who eat within 5 minutes, who say they love food. Like, I love food. I can take a full hour. I need to actually get it moving. My dear husband can eat his within 5 minutes. So, and he says he loves food. And I've always thought, how can you love food if you don't taste it? If you don't taste every single morsel, if you don't have it going to the right bite size in your mouth before you swallow. Can you share a little bit more about eating quickly versus eating slowly?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, even just the fact of taking that moment when you sit down to just take a breath and settle into your body and be present, which first of all is going to switch you from sympathetic. So if you're like doing whatever with your day, and it's lunchtime and you're sitting down, you just take that moment to be here, and then take that moment to be with your plate. Like, wow, what are the colors on your plate? What are the textures? What does it smell like? Which all of that is going to, first of all, switch you into parasympathetic nervous system, right? So we go from go, sympathetic, stress, fight and flight, to parasympathetic, rest and digest, so that we're actually able to digest and use that food efficiently, as opposed to if we're staying in stress response, our body's like, what? Food? Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, is that now? Oh, okay.
Is that now? Okay. Whereas if you sit and you settle and you smell and you chew, and this is one I bring up a lot, you chew and then you chew.
Get your fork and knife down.
You're sending all those mechanical and chemical signals all the way down through your digestive system going, okay, there's food coming. Let's get ready for it. Let's do our best and to receive this. And with receiving that's again on the biochemical level, getting the nutrients, but also receiving, being able to actually be present with the food and taking
Amazing.
it and saying, wow,
and
finding the joy.
Right? Yeah, I love gratitude. I just love it. How does that help improve our health?
Well, I guess I sort of just said that. So that really you're improving your digestive system by doing that. But then also when you take those moments to be sort of sit and, for lack of a better word, tune into what's on your plate, you're sort of bringing your vibration into a similar states, right? So that whether it's the enjoyment of the colors or the enjoyment of the smells and enjoying the textures as you chew, it sort of opens you in a different way. As I just mentioned that word joy, right? So it opens you to joy, and that opens, I like to imagine that it opens us at different levels so that even your cells are lighting up and opening up to receive what it is, so that something could be completely healthy. I don't know how many people I know who are like, I should eat kale because it's really healthy, but they can't stand the stuff. So that if you're eating it all like, okay, I guess I'll eat it. It's good for me, but I don't like it. That, like, what's that doing all the way down your digestive tract? What are how are your cells responding to that? How are your cells receiving that?
Right.
Probably not as nutritionally, there are plenty of ways to get all those same nutrients. So
if the digestive system is still unsympathetic, it's not going to digest as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, not open to receiving. I love that. You use a statement here called the magic looking glass for eating right. What is that? What does that mean?
That means taking your meals and holding them up to a mirror and finding, because people always want that magic formula, like what's the secret to eating properly and what's the best way to eat. You start by looking at what you have. And so it comes down to a little formula, and I'm sure it's something you talk about with your clients. You want to have protein, fat, fiber in every meal and every snack, and sort of bonus points if you also have something green in there. So those are the foods that are going to help you feel satisfied. So fiber and fat will help you feel satiated so that you feel full longer and have a long, slow release of energy, as opposed to something sweet that's just a quick fix.
Right.
You've got the protein that nourishes all your functional molecules, your neurotransmitters, your immune system, most of your hormones, and your blood, all the protein that in your body structure, so your body's actually going to function properly. And the something green, of course, is having that there's a good complement of vitamins and minerals in all our greens, but specifically magnesium. So especially for us women, it helps with hormone balancing. It helps with liver health. It helps your body to actually metabolize all the nutrients that you've been eating because it nourishes the liver. So it's really making sure all those things, and you don't need to have a ton of everything. Just make sure there's something,
Yeah.
And something green could even, like a bit of parsley counts, like fresh herbs, avocado counts.
I love a
pumpkin
good
seeds
parsley
counts.
salad, like.
And it doesn't need to, even like throw a few sprigs on your sandwich or whatever you're eating.
Right.
The sandwich that you make on a lettuce wrap or on gluten-free bread,
Yeah.
of course.
Your favorite gluten-free products.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share today?
Well, sort of expanding, I think last time I talked about listening to your body, and just in this whole idea of connecting to your food in a different way. I just wanted it reminds me that paying more attention to what you eat and how you eat ends up being a doorway to self-awareness and to who you are in a greater sense, right? So you learn so much about yourself and your relationship to life when you look at your relationship to food, and one can help inform the other and open you up. It's that doorway that gets you to greater self-knowledge and growth.
Right. Absolutely. And that's great because, self-awareness is actually, I feel, quite key to being able to, to good health when it comes to your relationship with food, being aware of it. Like, what does it look like? What does it taste like? Of course, I've always been told I make love to my food, so that's why I have to get quicker at it because it's a little slow. I could eat all day.
There you go.
Love it. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing more. And I'm super excited. I can't wait to see you back again. We'll do more topics on wonderful women's hormones and all kinds of things. So I'm super excited. So for those of you, again, this is Cathy Cochran. And if you want to get a hold of her directly, you can find her at her website at www.wholehealthservices.ca or Cathy at wholehealthservices.ca. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michelle.
You've been watching the Health Now Nutrition Podcast with Michelle Post. For more information on how you can be part of the holistic and nutrition movement, visit www.healthnow.today to book your meeting.